Yeah, another day, another dollar.
Another wedding in the at the same venue.
3 times.
Three weddings in 8 days at the same venue.
Yeah, so we're going back to the same place that we photographed twice in a row last week. This is very unusual, by the way. We don't usually shoot this many weddings at the same venue in a row, but for whatever reason,
to get back into it, it's actually a little bit of a gift because it's easy.
Yeah.
Because we know the venue and they take care of us there.
Yeah, not every venue gives us a seat during the reception to rest our feet, because obviously, like, I mean, most weddings are, I'd say most of the time it's like 8 hours, 8 to 7 hours, so it's a little bit easier.
But they give us an actual, like, our own little table at the reception where we can rest and sit, and they feed us, and
because not every venue does. This was at a different venue. Yeah, they had a table. It was a pretty big table, but it was for all the service providers, and that includes if there's like a live band, which there was. And we got up to do our goddamn job to photograph the speeches. I guess they'd like serve dinner or whatnot. Because we always get served last. Obviously, they serve the meals to all the guests, and then we always get served last for dinner. So it happens sometimes that we get served, and then they go, all right, now time for speeches, and that's when the band goes and sits down because they're not needed. And we got back that time and to the table, like, all right, time to eat, and they'd eaten theirs, they'd eaten ours. They
just devoured everything.
It's like, you know, the band is always like the grubby ones. We shot at, not this venue we're going to, but the venue where we just told the story about
the band.
The band eating it. But we shot a couple of weddings there.
Mm-hmm.
And we did one there where they had a very big cake, and it was probably like $1,000 cake. It was mad.
It was a tall cake. It was a 3-tier cake, and it was tall.
There's only 3.
I think it was only 3.
Those tiers must have been.
But it was tall. It was a very tall cake.
Probably the biggest cake I've seen, I reckon.
Yeah.
And it came time to cut the cake.
Yeah.
And the staff always, because the table was usually off to the side or
just out
a little
of the
bit
way.
closer to the table, and they usually pull it forward or bring it to the center of the dance floor so the couple can cut it. And probably one of my favorite things that's ever happened at a wedding. I shouldn't be smiling, but I am. But anyway, so they were like, you know, the MC's like, we're going to get the couple down to cut the cake. And so the staff came over, how can we help? And they grabbed the table, two people either end of this little table, to move it into the middle of the dance floor. And they picked it up, and there was like, I think there was a click. We heard a click when they picked this little table up.
Mm-hmm.
And they started moving it out, and Tay was like, I don't like the look of this. Like, she just had woman's intuition.
I can be very intuitive.
Yeah.
I can be very intuitive.
Yeah.
It just didn't look like a smooth transition.
No, it did not.
Let's just say that.
And I think the lady also, there was
there was someone on either side of the table.
And the lady that was carrying one side, I think she felt something was off as well, and she went to put the table down, but I guess the legs were foldable, and the legs had clicked and started to fold, and when she put it down, I think she just trusted the legs would catch the table, and she just let go of it, and the table went boom, and the cake, this big ass cake,
toppled on over.
It didn't topple. It just bam, slapped straight into the ground. This big ass cake. And like, you know, in movies when you hear like a whole crowd go like a
shriek.
Yeah, like a communal gasp.
Mm-hmm.
It was that. I don't think that happened in real life, but oh god, that happened. Like, do you remember the sound? My heart sank. I was like, oh my god, they just dropped the cake.
No, you didn't. You were just like, did the videographers get that?
I was thinking. That was pretty much my.
You're like, were they running?
I was. My first thought was, did the videographers catch that? But yeah, I know, and then my second thought was like, should I take a photo of this? But I refrained from lifting the camera. But yeah, it was this moment, and you can imagine how the two people, especially the lady that dropped the table, in front of it, because all eyes on them. They were moving it out. The couple were about to come down to cut the cake, and they dropped this cake. And what do you do? Like, what do you do? And I don't even know what happened after that. Like,
well, basically, it was like the 2 tiers smashed,
and then there was like the little part on the bottom,
and then the big tier at the bottom was recoverable.
was kind of, yeah.
So they kind of tried to fix it up because it didn't hit the ground, I don't believe. I don't believe the bottom hit the ground.
The bottom part.
It was just the top tiers that fell. So, yeah, so they were able to kind of make it look as nice as possible.
Yeah.
But the problem was, obviously, the bride and groom hadn't even cut their cake yet.
Yeah.
So they had to cut a cake that had been, like, smashed.
But you know what? They were good sports about it. Like,
they were.
There'd be a lot of brides and grooms that would not be happy, but it's like, what can you do? They were kind of like, things happen. So good on them for being so super about it. But man, that was a moment.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is, the lady that dropped the table, she went to go get something to clean it up, I guess. And she came out with the biggest smile on her face. Yeah. And I remember both me and you were like, oh, bitch, don't be smiling.
No, I think she just didn't know how to cope with the awkwardness.
I think she was so awkward about it. She probably went home and had a good cry later. Because I always thought I'd be the one to knock a cake over at a wedding. Like, we're walking around on the dance floor, you know, walking backwards, sometimes get a shot. Mm-hmm. I always think, God, you got to have a bit of spatial awareness about yourself, because I've always thought I'm going to be the one to bump this goddamn tall ass cake over or something. But the amount of weddings we shot, it was about time that we saw a cake drop on the ground. I was waiting.
Oh dear.
But yeah, so that's the story of the time we saw it. It's probably like my favourite wedding disasters, and it didn't happen. It wasn't me, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to go photograph a wedding today. Then we get next weekend off, which is pretty dope, and then we have two after that, two weekends after that. We're pretty much back on.
Pretty much.
So yeah, so we're going to get that done. I don't know if I really film much today, but if I don't, then at least you got that story for the vlog. So I'll see you on the flippy flop.